Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker, and today we're getting into some Keystone Algebra 1 math problems. Well, a problem, actually. All right. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel, right? Make sure if you have any questions as I go through this video, make sure you drop a comment, drop a question in the comment section underneath of the video. All right. Also, share the video. Share the video with some other people. Now, if you live in Pennsylvania, you may be taking the Keystone Algebra exam if you're in the 8th grade or the 9th grade or 10th grade, right? If you haven't passed it already. All right. So this is an example of the type of problem that you might see. Let's take a look. It says to simplify the expression, and this is not an equation. This is an expression, right? An equation has two expressions on opposite sides of an equal sign. This is just an expression. We have x squared minus 3x minus 28 divided by x minus 7, or you might say over x minus 7. Write the expression in the simplest form of a polynomial expression. Don't let all those big words fool you or intimidate you, right? Polynomial expression, this is a polynomial, right? Prefix poly means more than one or one or more, actually. This is specifically, this is called a trinomial. This 1, 2, 3 terms. A trinomial has 3 terms. This denominator is a binomial. A binomial has 2 terms, like a bicycle has 2 wheels. A tricycle has 3 wheels. Trinomial at the top, binomial at the bottom. All right. Now, when you see an expression like this or a problem like this, first thing you want to do is you want to try to factor whatever can be factored. Now, this x minus 7 can't be factored. Ain't nothing you can do with that. The greatest common factor of x and negative 7 is just 1. And that's not going to help us. That's not going to change nothing, right? Factoring out a 1 out of that is just going to give us 1 times the quantity x minus 7. But this trinomial right here, whenever you see a quadratic, what's quadratic mean? The biggest exponent you see is a 2, right? So you got x squared or x to the second power, right? That makes it quadratic, right? You got a quadratic trinomial, right? So therefore, you got your quadratic trinomial. When you see an expression that looks like this, there's a specific way that you can attempt to factor that. All right. Now, some people call it the reverse FOIL method. I know some teachers don't like the FOIL method, so they probably don't like the reverse FOIL method of factor, but it's cool, whatever you're into. I like the FOIL method. I have no problem with the FOIL method. FOIL method is cool with me. But what you got to do is this. When you see a trinomial, right? Now, this is the checklist you got to go through, all right? Now, I'm going to say a lot, so take notes and run it back and rewind the video if you need to. When you see a trinomial, 1, 2, 3, and it's quadratic, biggest exponent is a 2. Quadratic trinomial. The lead coefficient is a 1. That's 3 things. Lead coefficient is a 1. You need to know what a coefficient is. In negative 3x, the coefficient is negative 3. In x squared, the coefficient is 1. When there's no number written, it's understood to be a positive 1. What's understood don't need to be said. What's understood don't need to be written. All right. When there's a blank space in front of the variable, that coefficient is a positive 1. If there was a minus sign in front of this and no number, that means the coefficient is a negative 1. All right. So 3 criteria: trinomial, quadratic, this 2 right here, 3 terms, trinomial, and the lead coefficient is a 1. This how you'll attempt to factor it. Everything ain't factorable. This one is. I already know because I already did the problem. But everything is not factorable. But this is what you're going to try to do. You're going to rewrite it with 2 sets of parentheses. 2 binomials is what you're going to have. You're going to create 2 binomials. So you're going to have 2 terms in this set of this binomial, 2 terms in this binomial. All right. Now, what's going to go in the first spaces? You're going to take this x squared, break it down into x times x. You take the x squared, you break it down into x times x. So you're going to have an x right here and an x right here. Then, this is the key. You're going to look at the last term, the constant. You want to find 2 factors of the last term that also add up to the coefficient of the middle term. Again, for the people in the back that ain't hear me, you're going to look for 2 factors of the last term that add up to the coefficient of the middle term. So 2 factors of negative 28. And remember, this is not a 28. That minus sign means something. It's very important. Negative 28 and 28 are not the same thing. So nobody should be looking at this saying, oh, that's 28. No, it's not. It's negative 28. Be specific. Be precise. It's negative 28. Just like this is not a 3. This is a negative 3. or negative 3x. All right. So you need two factors of negative 28 that add up to negative 3. Now, if you're a person that has your multiplication facts memorized and know them by heart, this should be very easy for you. If you're not one of them people, then this is what you need to do. You need to list on paper all of the factors of the number negative 28. Let's go. So let's say negative 28 times 1. And we're doing factor pairs. A pair like two, like a pair of shoes, two shoes. All right. Negative 28 times 1 gives me negative 28. What else gives me negative 28? What about negative 7 times 4? What about negative 14 times 2? Right? Does negative 28 have any more factors? Are there any more whole numbers or integers? Not whole numbers, but integers that can multiply together and have a product of negative 28? I don't think there are any. There aren't. Now, from this list of factor pairs, we got 1, 2, 3. Which one of these adds up to negative 3? Does negative 28 plus 1 add up to negative 3? No, it don't. Get him out of there. What about negative 7 plus 4? Yes, it do. Also, you got to know how to do arithmetic. You got to know how to add and subtract with positive and negative numbers. You got to learn that. If you don't understand how to do that, go into one of the playlists I have on here dealing with adding and subtracting real numbers. All right? And get familiar with how to add and subtract positive and negative numbers. That's mandatory. All right, so negative 7 and 4. We don't got to worry about negative 14 and 2 because you know that don't add up to negative 3 neither. All right, so what do I do with these two numbers? That's your next question. You take these two numbers and put them in the problem. So I take the negative 7 and I do minus 7. I take the positive 4 and I write plus 4. Now what I've done is I've just factored this trinomial into two linear binomials. When we factor, we break something down into simpler terms. This was a quadratic. Now it's a linear. Notice how it's quadratic. The biggest exponent is a 2. Now notice the biggest exponent you see is a 1. And when there's no exponent written, it's understood to be a 1. Once again, what's understood don't have to be said. What's understood don't have to be written. Right? We went from x to the second power to x to the first power and x to the first power. That's what happens when we factor. We break something down into simpler expressions. Right? That's what it's all about. So and that enables us to be able to simplify expressions and then solve problems that are more complicated. So then we go here, write our denominator, x minus 7. Now we look for things that can be divided. I see an x minus 7 on top. I see an x minus 7 on the bottom. We don't divide out individual variables when they're part of binomials or trinomials, right? We divide out whole binomials. So this whole x minus 7 is going to divide out or cancel out, some people say, with this whole x minus 7, leaving us with just x plus 4. Boom. That's it. That's the final answer. That's the simplest form of this polynomial expression, x plus 4, right? So you as a student need to understand that this expression, this fraction, is equivalent to this binomial, x plus 4. We got to understand that. All right? All right. So like I said, if you still got any questions, though, drop your questions in the comments. I'm going to get a notification. I'm going to see them. We can talk about it. All right. But this is some Keystone Algebra review. This is the type of question that you might see as a constructed, open-ended, constructed response or open-ended question toward the end of the test. All right. The end of one of the modules. All right. If you're in Pennsylvania, you're going to take the Keystone. All right. This is the type of content you'll see. But in any state, it don't matter. Every state got their own standardized tests. And pretty much, if it's algebra, this is something you need to know how to do. You need to know how to factor quadratic trinomials. All right. What's the criteria? Is it a trinomial? Yes. Is it quadratic? Yes. Is the lead coefficient a 1? Yes. Then you factor it this way. Find the two factors of the last term that also add up to the middle term. Now, if the lead coefficient was not a 1, if it was a different number, a 2 or 3 or 4, a negative 8, whatever, then it will be a different process. I got a whole playlist on how to do them problems. Also on this channel. That's why you need to be subscribed. All right. So practice problems like this, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace. Oh, hold up. By the way, shout out to my alma mater, Morgan State University, class of 03. Morgan State University down in Baltimore, founded in 1867. The national treasure. All right, now I'm out. Peace.